and then, you know, focusing on the question. So I try to be in 10 minutes and try to, I mean, to explain, actually, to show you as much as possible. So in order to present my PB cases, I need to present a little bit my my organization, my no-profit organization, and his motto is Activate Networks and Change Democracy, and its name is BiPart. BiPart stands from Bilancio Partecipativo, which is the Italian translation for participatory budgeting. So the goal, it's basically this organization, which is a social enterprise, is the result on academic path, and that's why, I mean, I will show you the two main goals of the company, which is disseminating participatory budgeting methodology as a more efficient, inclusive, and participatory democratic governance model. So it's not just a tool for democracy; it's a new democratic model of democracy. It's a new governance model of democracy. And we do it in two ways: by spreading and testing methodology, and by building technology to support the methodology. So basically, the methodology is the typical methodology for participatory budgeting, which is usually made of 3 phases, which is discussion, collection, and selection of priorities, raising delegates also to represent these priorities, and to work together in phase 2, which is technical analysis and co-design. And finally, as usual nowadays, is the final vote. So this is basically the methodology that we all know, and we try to test and to spread in different communitarian context. The second way in which we pursue our mission is to develop a platform, and the platform is, you know, the precondition for the hybrid participatory budgeting process. But it's not only the reason for which we develop the platform; it's also because we believe that in order to spread this kind of practice of as PB, we need a platform that connect practices and case studies together, connect communities, and provide an independent and free space for citizens to keep their community and their social boundaries, the social capital, alive, even when the political majorities change and political programs, also in terms of participatory programs, changed. So that's why I mean, with this kind of methodology and with this kind of technology, we developed since 2009 until now several participatory budgeting, several hybrid participatory budgeting, because that's some data that I quickly show you, and then I can provide you further information and materials, documentation for that. But just to show you the methodology and why, and you know, the reason why we developed hybrid PB, because the keywords for even for the breakout session is basically is represented by the reason is represented by the picture on the left, actually, which you probably know the motto: if the mountain will not go to Muhammad, finally Muhammad has to go to the mountain. So basically, online is the way to reach people, because people usually don't come to the offline events except from a small group. And so in the intertwined online and offline venues, you can work on, you know, connecting with people, try to a little bit to inform them, and then try to move them offline, and vice versa. Try to organize the offline events in order to train people to use the online tools, because, you know, online tools are the future. That's basically some data of online and offline participation that we did some research a few years ago, because I'm not being involved in the university for a long time, and because basically we moved, and so that's my second part of the presentation. We moved from municipalities to any other towards other organized communities, and that's part of the mission. In order to spread PB, in order to spread, so we not only need to work in a hybrid way, but also we need to work in different community contexts. So we basically move from municipality, and even thanks to the support of the technology, we also start implementing participatory budgeting in schools, high schools mainly, and in prisons as well. So this second part is just to show you two examples of this PB, because I think that participatory budgeting in municipalities are many and definitely better, represented this kind of case study. So that's why I selected two cases for you in order to even to show the methodology, even some kind of results. So the first PB at school in Italy was developed in 2017, and basically it has the same identical methodology of the municipality, nothing different. Just the budget is very small, it's 10,000 euro, which is a lot for schools, but the logical is the same. Statute, a first phase of idea gathering and a kind of pre-vote session in order to select the top priorities and to bring the delegates of these top priorities together, and with a technical commission made of experts, which helps them even to connect to each other and try to combine the proposals, and also to deliberate in order to combine the two proposals, and also to turn ideas and proposal into feasible projects. Final voting, is the final phase of any PB now. And I mean, it's interesting because with this case study, we could develop the concept of representatives as facilitators, which means that we always have problems in municipalities to to interact with politicians and citizens, because politicians, they have to represent them and they have to decide on their behalf because they are legally binding on taking decision. Students are much more softer, and you can work with them on developing the concept of representation as a facilitator, which means you are not substituting your community, but you are doing your role by allowing them gradually to enter into the decision-making process. So you are a facilitator, and you work not just on developing political programs and ask for the votes, but you work on developing political process and to bring people to the decision-making process. So it's very interesting dynamics works with schools, and this is some results. And of course, the turnout vote is 96% of the community, because it's quite easy, and actually because of the combination of online and offline. But it's a very banding, is a very encapsulated community, so it's easy to reach this percentage. The second, and from this school now we are involved in a nationwide process where 5 schools in 5 different cities in Italy now are spreading and implementing and testing PB. So it's a nice increasing process. Idee in fuga, ideas on the flight. I think this is the correct translation. Flying ideas, I guess, is the first PB in the prisons, and it's very short. Just show you again. And the reason why we develop PB in prisons, first of all, is gradually similar to the school. In schools, students are not fully represented. So, I mean, there is not a full democracy in schools, because in Italy, I don't know everywhere, I don't know where in your place, the students represent a small percentage of the council, which has the decision-making power. In prisons, prisoners doesn't have any power, any rights. And it's very funny, if you want to, to teach them how to live in a democratic community, it's very funny that they cannot exert democracy in their community where they are in prison. So PB is a way to try to disrupt this concept, and again to teach the institution, in this case detention institution, to teach them not to be the seizure and to decide on behalf of their community, but to be a facilitator again. I mean, try to use their power not to, you know, take decision and make life better, but trying to include in the decision making and make the life better. So basically, in 10 minutes, actually, sorry, in 11 minutes, I tried to, you know, not only to introduce some 2 case studies and also some hints for the hybrid solution, but also try to understand the reason behind these 2 case studies. And I hope that this will raise some question and you know, discussion for the second session of this meeting. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. And I interrupt my presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Stefano. I'm just going to hand over straight over to Hanne, and then there'll be time for questions at the end. But if you do have any burning questions, pop them in the chat and we will take those. Hanne, over to you.
I will share my screen too. I hope you can see it. I agree with Stefano that it's impossible to talk about PB in 10 minutes. But I'll focus on a few points of the PB of Antwerp, which I designed and implemented in 2013, 2014 already. And I led the process until 2018, and then I moved to DEMOTEC, and I'm still involved in a lot of PB stuff there. But when we started designing this process, these were our main goals of the PB. And the most important one was to create mutual understanding between participants. So immediately, if that was the main goal, we understood that it wasn't a project where people could just vote online or something, because then they wouldn't create that conversation, that social learning, that mutual understanding. So that was really important. So related to that, the process is as important as the outcome. It's not just about the projects that come out of there, but also people discussing with each other what is important for their city. Other goals were we had to spend public resources in a participative way, spend public money more efficient. And this comes down to the question that if people can decide what public money is spent on, they might spend it in a more efficient way because they have better understanding of the local needs, because they can do some things themselves. So this was an important argument too. Create more support for decisions of local authority. I see there's a letter missing there, but the idea was that if people understood how to make choices with a limited amount of money, they would support the difficulty of making political decisions even more, because they understood difficult choices had to be made. And increase the satisfaction of participation, like in many cities in Belgium, and I imagine in the rest of Europe too. There were some things under the name of participation, but often it was a bit, people were asked their opinions, but it was not clear what happened to those opinions. It wasn't transparent at all. People had the feeling that whatever they said, it disappeared into a black box. And so the explicit goal of this PB process was to increase the satisfaction of the participation by making it super transparent, by making it meaningful. And the answer to that was a design in 3 stages, or 3 stages of decision making, and after that comes the implementation, of course. But first, people decide over the topics where they want to spend their money on. Then they want to distribute the total amount of money, 1.4 million euros, over the different topics chosen in the first phase. Then comes the ideation. within those topics and budgets, and then they will decide over the projects. Let me go deeper into each phase. Each phase has a deliberative component and an online component. I will focus mainly on the deliberative components because of the goals of the mutual understanding, which is so important in a PB process. There is more weight to the deliberative components. So I agree with Stefano, as he said, it's much easier to attract people online with like a small engagement. So that's why we implemented that too. But over all the phases, the deliberative component counts for 80% of the weight, because those ideas are discussed, because people have to interact with each other and so on. And we try to attract people into the process by giving them 20% of the weight of the decision making. So there is an online component, which is important to attract new people, but the weight is really on the deliberative component. Every group of 6 participants choose 5 topics by consensus out of a long list of possible topics. So they are in little groups. They have, as you see on the picture, all those different topics on cards, and they have to discuss and reach consensus over the 5 most important. Those are like 10 events or something to choose the topics spread all over the city, in youth houses, in bars, on different places people could come and join those meetings. Every table chooses 5 votes, and they're all counted together, and we come to a list of 12 topics, and those 12 topics move forward to the next phase. The next phase is the distribution of the money, where people again come together. Now there are 2 central events instead of spread over the whole city, and every group of 8 participants come together and distribute the total amount of money, 1.4 million euros, over the topics that are chosen in the first phase. As you see on the picture, it is set up as a game with poker chips, where every participant has its own color, but it's also encouraging the dialogue by having some rules that X number of participants, at least 4 participants, need to put money on a certain topic in order to make it count. So every participant has its own color, but dialogue is encouraged by some of these rules to make sure there is this interaction we want in this process. On those colored cards, there is some info about what a certain topic costs, so that people have an idea. If I spent so much money on a topic, what can we do with it? How much is it? If we want to plant trees, how much trees can we plant with a certain amount of money? And the result is the result of the average of every single table. So then we have 12 topics, each with a certain amount of money on it. And that goes on to the next round. Then comes the ideation. That's a classic sort of ideation as we know it. Within those topics chosen and within those budgets, people can file projects. Then there is a classic phase of reviewing the project, whether they meet the criteria and so on. And then there is the last deliberative event where people come and rank those projects, also in the form of mini publics in a deliberative way. So again, little groups of people see what project has come in for each of the topics, and discuss about which projects are most important to them. On this main big festival event, projects are chosen during the whole day, one topic after the other. Those votes are counted, those count for 80%, the online for 20%, those are counted together. And that is the result of the PB, which is announced with press present there. So it's made clear that there's no intervention of local authority at all at that point. Also here, there are rules to encourage the dialogue and to reduce the power of the number, that people really discuss what projects have more value, and that's not only people coming for their own projects, by combining several topics into one discussion and so on. If you want to know more about that, I'll explain later, but I don't have that much time. So the main principles of this PB process in Antwerp is, one of the most important goals is to create this mutual understanding. And so there is deliberation in every step of the way, and every decision-making phase is made through deliberation, and also by consensus with many publics. But also there is an online component in every phase, but there is less weight in there. Real money, real power. The local authority can set the criteria that the project must meet, but apart from that, there is no single intervention from the local authority. And so all the results are announced before press. The right moment they are decided to make it clear, they won't go into a black box and local authority needs to decide. So whenever they approved this PB process, they approved that they would go on with the results. The only control they have is setting the criteria and checking whether some projects meet the criteria. So it's really important to have like the right criteria. Because those deliberative events have some barriers for a certain group of people, we invested a lot in special programs for those groups who are less likely to participate, for people in poverty,